Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive astrologer, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about the full moon in Virgo on Saturday, February 27th, 2021 at 12:17 a.m. Pacific time. But before I start, I just want to do a little bit of business. I am a Western tropical astrologer. That's how I've studied. That's how I've learned. I think of myself as a student, AKA teacher, as I am constantly learning and then sharing my knowledge with others. I go by the whole sign house system. That is how I've been taught and how I have experienced most accuracy within the chart itself. And finally, if you indeed find value in my work, in the videos you're seeing on this channel, please subscribe and be sure to hit that notification button. It's the little bell so that you'll be notified when new content has been uploaded. And also please like and comment. And if you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can get a hold of me via my website or email me. My contact information is in the description here in the video. And if you're in the United States, feel free to text me. Otherwise, if you're international, please email me. All right, let's get to the full moon in Virgo. This full moon in Virgo is making a beautiful aspect to Uranus. Let me back up a second here. Okay, I started to get too excited because I started this video over a couple of times. A full moon is the culmination of a cycle. It is when the moon is at its fullest peak. It has the most bright illuminating light, which allows us to see clearly what we've created and then to capitalize on what's working for us and to see what is not working for us come to some sort of conclusion. So as we contemplate what it means for this full moon to be in Virgo, it's going to ask us to look at the dynamics of our everyday lives. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules our communications, our everyday travels, our everyday activities, and interactions with others. Mercury rules both the third and the sixth house. Virgo is naturally the sixth house of health, of service, being both work and employees, meaning if you're an entrepreneur and you have any employees, they would come into the sixth house, as well as if you were an employee. It also covers our pets. I think that's health, work, pets, and there's something else I'm forgetting, but it'll come to me. So as we endeavor this full moon, or as we walk through this full moon, we're going to see an illumination in various parts of our lives. And we're going to get an opportunity to assess if they're still practical and if there are things that are aligned to what gives meaningful purpose to our lives. The sixth house rules service to others. It's where we take our skills and we have honed them in a way, and then we bring them back out to be of service to others. So this is going to be kind of a running theme for this full moon, is how can I take my meaningful actions and bring them out into the world? Now, if indeed you're struggling to find meaningful action within your life, then that would be the first thing you're looking at. Are my everyday activities supporting what it is that I want to experience here on the planet? I'm saying a lot, so I apologize for that. Okay, so this full moon, this is when the moon and the sun are in opposite positions on the zodiac wheel. So the moon is in Virgo and the sun is in Pisces. This creates a tension in some ways. And I akin it to warrior pose in yoga, because it's actually through the pushing against, the pushing out, and the tension that's created in pushing out that gives us the balance. So in some ways, this tension between the moon and the sun is going to give us more strength and more balance. The sun is in a conversation with Venus. It's just a few degrees away from the sun. And Venus rules our money, it rules our value, it rules our possessions, beauty and art, and the feminine in general. So I believe what this conversation that the sun is having with Venus is about my material, how I make my money. And it's this opposition from the sun to the moon is asking me if I'm enjoying it, if I am finding fulfillment within my work life. So in addition to the conversation that Venus is having with the sun, we also have what's called a trine, which is a favorable, harmonious aspect between the planet Uranus in Taurus and the moon in Virgo. Both are earth signs. And so we're talking about the ground we walk on. Uranus is a bit of a disruptor. Uranus is unexpected, a little bit shocking. It's liberating, revolutionary. It's very, it's a scientific energy. It's a higher octave actually of Mercury. So, and Mercury rules Virgo. So we see this whole theme of our communications, our everyday activities. Are they being authentic to what we want to express and how we want to express ourselves? So while we see Uranus and the moon having this sort of kinetic, electric conversation about what do you really feel? And if indeed, for some reason, what you're feeling is obligation versus opportunity, Uranus may feel a little disruptive. It may create anxiety for you, may make you nervous. It may even implement unexpected events that propel you into a new dynamic, hence the full moon being the culmination of the cycle. So now that I've covered the basic dynamics of the full moon, I want to go into each sign, and I'm doing this by rising sign because our rising sign is the lens with which we view the world. It's how we perceive the world. So I'm going to start with Aries and work my way towards Pisces. If for some reason you don't know your rising sign, you can go to any one of the free astrology sites, and all you need to know is your time of birth and your location. Obviously the day of your birth, I'm assuming you know that. And then you can just plug in and it will give you it'll give you your rising sign and all where your natal chart and planets were. Again, I want to emphasize I am a whole sign system. So Placidus breaks the houses up into different sizes, whereas whole sign, each sign is 30 degrees. So when you're calculating it, be mindful of the house system so you can look at that. So let's start with Aries. Aries, this is going to be in your 6th house. That is the house of health, of service, of pets, of employment, and of slavery. Because in ancient times, we actually had servants and servitude. And now in modern times, we have become slaves to our jobs and slaves to our everyday lives. So for Aries, this full moon is going to put an illumination on what you are doing in your everyday life for your work. Are you enjoying it? Is it satisfying your heart as much as it is satisfying your wallet? And it's also going to put a spotlight on your health. I want to say it in such a way where it feels like if you've had a health issue, if you've had a challenge in some way, I believe you're going to start to see that challenge is being balanced out, it's being neutralized, and it's going to take your continued cooperation and participation to take it over to get to the end of the game, meaning to come back into complete and balanced health. And I feel like for my Aries, one of the things you may want to pay attention to is your anger. Because if you've been angry, it's like having an inferno inside of your body and can inadvertently be putting you in a compromised position. So being mindful of that, being mindful of how your emotional body is serving your physical body, and then allowing yourself to come into a place of alignment with a bigger truth of who you are. Okay, so now I believe let's go on to Taurus. For Taurus, this is going to be in your fifth house of children, of romance, of personal creative expression, of hobbies and fun. So what I believe that is going to happen is there's going to be a culmination, an illumination on what you really want in the way of expressing yourself, how you want to interact with your children, or if indeed you want to create children. This is going to be a moon um, in Virgo that's going to bring a practical dynamic into your creative process. That's how I want to feel. And I also feel like for my Tauruses, Taurus is a fixed sign. So once Taurus gets into a groove of something, sometimes it's hard to move out of it. And what I feel is happening here is that this is going to give you an opportunity to look at the things ruled by the fifth house, children, creativity, romance, and hobbies, with a more open eye, I think. I feel like the culmination, what this full moon is offering, is an opportunity to be less critical of yourself, of your creations, of the things you like to do in the way of enjoying your time, if for some reason you've been feeling dutiful. If for some reason you've been having challenges with your children, or your children, a lot of people are homeschooling right now. And while we all love our families, we can get a little bit of cabin fever. So I think that this full moon will also bring about some sort of solution to balance out whatever's going on with the children in your life. If there's been a wanting to start a family, this full moon being in Virgo, the sign of health, could very much bring the end of a cycle that's been a problem and then opening up for something new to start, or opening up a way of, I want to put it this way, for Taurus, you may be so frustrated with what the road has been that you've literally given up. And in the giving up, you've surrendered, and then Spirit's able to open a door and whoosh, your manifestation will walk through it. All right, hope that made sense. Let's go on to Gemini. For Gemini rising, this is going to be happening in your fourth house of home, of hearth, of property, of your car even. Buying a car, driving a car would be third house. We'll talk about that in a minute. Because what I think is happening for Gemini is an opportunity for you to have an illumination and in some ways an epiphany about what you want to see in the way of your home life. And while this represents our family we're born into, as I'm intuiting this and as I'm coming into this feeling for Geminis, because Gemini is also ruled by Mercury. So your thoughts, what you're teaching, what you're reading, how is that serving to create the family, the home, the dynamic you want? And for some reason, I don't know why I'm going to go here, but I feel like this is a lot to do with property. There could be the potential that Gemini is considering buying property and actually kind of putting a button on being a renter, starting to be an owner, or doing something that puts you in a more solid place within your home environment. I'm very much getting the potential that there could be people that are going to start looking to purchase a home, and saying goodbye to being transit in some way, coming and going from one place to another. I want to just put it this way. Gemini, if you've found yourself feeling a little bit like you've been bouncing around, and I know that's going to sound weird to say because we've been in a pandemic for so long, but there's a sense of that coming to an end. So even if it's been in your mind and you've been contemplating, where do I want to put my home? Where do I want to invest in property? Or do I want to buy a new car or a boat? All of those things are going to come into play right now. And I think that this is where you're actually going to liberate yourself. This is where the trine between Uranus and this moon will give you the epiphany, the almost like you may be getting so sick of your everyday life. Let's put it this way. Let's say you've been an apartment dweller or you've been a renter, and it's been kind of annoying in your area. Your neighbors are loud or the traffic is bad, whatever the case may be. This may be where you finally say, I'm done renting. I'm going to start to either move myself into a new environment that is more conducive to the peace I want, or I feel like you're going to potentially buy property or start to think about buying property as the year moves forward. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Cancer, this full moon in Virgo is happening in your third house of siblings, everyday activities, writing, thinking, speaking, teaching. The third house is naturally ruled by Gemini. So a lot of this activity for me is going to come in your everyday activities. And I'm kind of going with the idea that there could be a culmination or something that is reaching fruition that has to do with a team of some kind or a group of people that you either work with or you see on a regular basis. It feels kind of project oriented. I personally do not work in a team, and yet there's a certain amount of cooperation I need to have with others in order to get my job done. So for Cancer, I feel like you're going to be feeling a very strong pull to come into a dynamic that is more aligned to what you want to experience within the relationship with your siblings, relationships with your teammates, your workmates, your neighborhood, the community, the clubs that you're part of, whatever sort of activities that you do that are involving groups of people. There's going to be sort of this culmination of what has been out of balance, what you felt a slave to, what you felt obligated to, and now we're going to move into a place of more joy and more excitement to go into those arenas and to spend time with, I think even maybe some new people might be coming into your everyday life. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Leo, it is the second house for you that this full moon in Virgo will be happening. And the second house rules our possessions. It rules our money. It rules history. And it's funny that I say that because it's not the first thing you think about when you think about the second house, but to me, it feels as if Leo is going to take advantage of this full moon by having a ability to be practical about how you view your history, your family's history, their history at making money, the history of like your lineage in some way. And if you find yourself being one of those people that is breaking the box of your lineage, then I think this full moon is going to support that as you start to step into more of a heart space, hello Leo, and allow what you want to experience from your heart versus what you think you're supposed to experience from your head. It very much feels too as if there is this element with Leo where it's about kind of dropping the perfectionism if you have a challenge with that, or if you are extra critical of yourself and what you create or your skills in some way, because I feel like that culmination, seeing yourself with a more gentle eye, being less expecting such a high level of performance from yourself 100% of the time is going to help you to come into more balance for yourself, which will then help you become into more balance for those around you. So this very much feels like it has to do with the history of my experiences on this planet, how I have perceived them in a way that might have been a little bit hard on myself. And then the trine with Uranus is going to sort of liberate me from that, and where I have a more patient and gentle view of myself as I continue to walk down the path of my own evolution. All right, so for Virgo, this is your full moon. This is in your house of self, the first house. When I was reviewing some of the dynamics of what Virgo represents. It represents the Virgin, which represents purity and innocence. And some of the shadow side of Virgo is the perfectionist, always trying to be perfect at things and do everything right. And I feel like this full moon is going to give you an opportunity to understand and to realize and to internalize that imperfection is perfection. There is a wisdom to the challenges, to the mistakes that we make, to the flaws that we have. Because as we triumph over those flaws from our own, or even accept those flaws as part of who we are, we become vibrationally aligned to a bigger picture of ourselves. And so for me, this full moon is going to allow Virgo to release the shackles of criticism and self-defeating thoughts because I'm not good enough, because I've worked hard enough, because I haven't been practical enough. And so the ideas of the innocent, the purity is in the journey. The purity is the willingness to go down the path of life and to stumble and get back up. That's where the perfection truly lies. So for me, Virgo is going to have a very wonderful opportunity to step into a vibration that aligns themselves to a deeper joy as they endeavor their everyday work life as well. Because this feels like this, taking this criticism off the table permeates other areas of my life as well. But mostly it permeates my sense of self. All right, let's go on to Libra. For Libra, this is going to be in your 12th house. That would be the house that sits behind your house of self. So the 12th house is oftentimes called the house of self-undoing, the house of troubles. But it's also a very spiritual house, because when we've found ourselves in times of trouble, it propels us into reflection. It propels us into introspection. And that is the beauty of the 12th house. The 12th house rules hotels, hospitals, bedrooms, sleeping. It rules prisons and containment, isolation in some way, but that isolation offers illumination. So here we have this full moon in Virgo that is illuminating where Libra may be inadvertently getting in their own way, and being fair and being just as Libra is, rather than berating yourself. It feels like you use the aspects of the Uranus trine to this full moon to liberate yourself from those thoughts, and to use this time to not only reflect and not only review, where do I want to go? How can I best serve me so that I serve others? Because this is very much this sort of, the 12th house is the house of ancestors, it very much sort of resonates with this long history of a certain way of being that did not serve the highest vibration of who and what we believe we are. So for Libra, as you find patience within yourself, as you discover and reflect on maybe some of the more challenging things where you have inadvertently imprisoned yourself to a job that doesn't serve you, to being practical or dependable to a dynamic that does not serve you. Because what we're wanting to do is create a win-win. So whatever we're endeavoring wins, and we win as well. So this is what I think is being offered. This is where I feel like Uranus is going to liberate Libra. We're going to see it as being more practical to take care of ourselves before we start to take care of others, and to really be patient with the idea that if I don't feel good about what I'm producing out in the world, how can I help others to feel good about what they're doing? This is all kind of comes through me. I'm not quite even sure what I'm saying at the end of the day, but that's what I'm doing for Libra. All right, let's go on to our Scorpio. This is going to happen in your 11th house, which is very, very interesting. The 11th house by nature is Aquarius. It rules networks of systems. It rules like the internet, social media, large networks that don't necessarily have a brain. It also represents our hopes and our dreams. So for my Scorpios, what I think is going to happen for you the opportunities being presented on this full moon is to come to a culmination, not so much about your networks and the people that you're interacting with, but about your hopes and your dreams. And are they really focused on you? Are they focused in on what you want? Are they your deeper truth? Or are they somehow playing to a dynamic that is serving the whole, but not serving you? I find it interesting too that it's in the 11th house, because the number 11 is a master number of thought. So I want to offer this in addition, which is not necessarily astrological, but it's coming through for me. I believe that Scorpio gets to dig a little bit deeper into your hopes and your dreams and really decipher whether they're yours or they're ones that you have through habit. If they're ones you have through habit, allowing them to come to a culmination and almost sitting in a pause so that Uranus can liberate you from whatever is holding you back and propel you into something that is more aligned to where you want to be and what you want to experience. I also want to say this, that if indeed for some reason you've been challenged in your friendship circle, if you've been feeling like your friends are few and far between, then this may too be coming to fruition, coming to an end, and spirit and source energy may be bringing you people and situations and dynamics that are more aligned to the authentic part of yourself, and therefore allowing you that expression. All right, let's go on to Sagittarius. This is going to be in your 10th house of career. This is a very pivotal, it's the highest point in the chart, the 10th house. The 10th house rules the things that how people perceive us, not how they know us, but how they perceive us. It's like when you watch someone on TV, you get a certain view of who you think they are. And that may not be whatever they are in real life. So for me, as I look at Sagittarius, this full moon in Virgo is giving you an opportunity to really release whatever perceptions you have in the way of what is expected of you in your career sector, meaning the idea of, because Virgo rules employment, it rules service, and the 10th house is our career as well. So there's a very strong pull for me right now as far as is Sagittarius. It's how people perceive me versus what I want and how I want to project myself into the world. So let's say that you have always been a dutiful employee. You've always been super good at getting everything done, staying late and doing all of these things, but you haven't actually been rewarded for those things. You haven't actually been applauded for them. This full moon may, in many ways, have you coming to the fruition of dutiful action that is not being acknowledged, not being balanced out. And it's not about being rebellious in any way, but for some reason, it feels like Sagittarius is going to grab onto the idea of moving into a foreign arena. And when I say that, I mean a foreign arena in the way you're thinking and the way you're feeling in your heart. So you may not leave your work, but you may decide that if I'm being perceived this way and I'm working this way, I want to bring them into alignment. So you have been working as an executive and being paid as an administrator. The full moon may bring the culmination of that dynamic to a fork in the road. And part of the journey you're going to have is to be brave enough to trust in your reputation, to trust in your work ethic and the things that you have brought to the table. And then to be able to sit at that table with a strong sense of self that intends for things to come together in your work life to make you feel fulfilled and those that you are serving to feel fulfilled. It feels like it's the ultimate win-win. And anything that is not supporting that win-win will be moved out. All right, let's go on to Capricorn. Capricorn, this is happening in your 9th house of beliefs, of higher education, connection to the angelic realm, foreign travel, foreign ideas, foreign concepts, foreign experiences. And what I think this may be for Capricorn in some ways is the, if you think about the idea of Virgo being your 9th house, is there a part of you that believes that you must be perfect? Is there a part of you that believes that you must purport a certain behavior in order to be acceptable or to be valuable to others? And this full moon will give you the opportunity to decipher how much of your value you're going to allow others to assign to you and how much you're going to assign to yourself. I believe that this 9th house is going to, or this Virgo full moon in the 9th house is going to, in some ways, anchor you into a bigger and more dynamic belief in yourself, thereby putting a button on anything you've been holding yourself small. If you've been holding yourself in a place that says, well, I just don't know enough in order to move forward. And I want to offer it this way for Sagittarius, because the challenging side of Sagittarius can be a little bit of a Mr. or Mrs. Know-it-all, a little bit stuck or entrenched in your way of believing. So if indeed your beliefs have been holding you into a tight pattern that hasn't served you, I believe this full moon will release the shackles that have enslaved you into small thoughts and open you up into a much bigger arena where there's more room for, I want to say wiggle room for failure. And I don't mean actual failure. I just mean unknown caller. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, what I'm saying is that it's offering Capricorn an opportunity to move into a dynamic where your beliefs are supported in a way that is no longer sitting static, dutiful, stoic, but rather more in alignment with where you want to go, what you want to experience, and creating this win-win. That's the best way that I can describe it, because the win-win is the recipe for, that phone call kind of messed me up a little bit. I want to put it this way. Oftentimes when we contemplate how we win, we think of it like we think of competition. I must win and you must lose. And I think that could be the foreign concept that is being stoked and being illuminated right now, so that Capricorn can move past anything that's been holding you back. You know, if I'm not doing it right, I'm not going to win. If I'm not working hard enough, I'm not going to win. All those things are old structures that are being renovated. And that's where this trine between Uranus and the moon is going to liberate you. And it may make you feel slightly anxious before it does that. There may be this almost feeling of a jarring little bit of almost like lightning struck you. But in order for you to truly liberate yourself, there has to be something that jars you up and out of your Capricorn energy. Meaning the goat that's slowly traversing up and going into the baby goat that's much happier. All right, let's go into Aquarius. This is going to happen in your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of other people's money, insurance, taxes, sex. It also rules the occult and astrology. It's a house of transformation. So I believe that what you're going to see is the culmination of things that have been going on. And I'm kind of, some of you may be paying your taxes. It's tax season. Some of you may find yourself dealing with insurance companies, and all this kind of red tape may be coming to a conclusion where you'll finally be able to move it and get it off of your plate. But I also think that there is an opportunity for Aquarius to really kick into that astrology and occult idea in the 8th house. It's almost as if the full moon brings this culmination of seeing the world flat or seeing the world as solid and opening up to much more innovative and unusual ideas about how your life works. And thereby, there's sort of a death and a rebirth. The 8th house is the house of death and rebirth. It's the butterfly that was the caterpillar that goes into the cocoon that then transforms. So as you're contemplating where is this transformation coming from, I believe for Aquarius, it may come out of the blue. And it may be something that feels in retrospect like it should have been super obvious. It's been sitting behind you this whole time, but it wasn't on your radar. And now that this moon has brought this onto your radar, then the dynamic with your ruling planet Uranus is going to liberate you from this dynamic. It's going to in some ways pay off those taxes. There could be the potential that you are, there's so many, the 8th house is a house of great intimacy. It's a house of exposing the deeper parts of yourself within partnership. That's what sex is. So for me, in some ways, this Aquarius having this full moon in your 8th house is going to liberate you and illuminate and put the end to a cycle that has been not serving your evolution, anywhere there has been, if indeed you have felt that you needed to purport a certain behavior because you're not the breadwinner in your family, then somehow you're going to come around to thinking that what you bring to the table has as much value as those dollars that somebody else brings to the table. Or if indeed you have been dealing with inheritances, somebody has passed away, we've lost a lot of people, then I feel like there's going to come some conclusion to the paperwork of that dynamic. And many of you may choose to start, surprisingly enough, I do believe every full moon is like a new moon, and every new moon is like a full moon, because when one thing begins, something has to end, and when something ends, something new begins. So some of you may get very interested in astrology. Some of you may find yourself more interested in space, in space exploration. We just had the Perseverance land on Mars. They're doing research now, and by 2034, they're planning on putting a man on Mars. So there's a lot of innovation going on within Aquarius in general, in the skies and the stars. All right, so let's go on to our final sign, Pisces. This full moon is going to be in your 7th house of partnerships. And when I look at that, I kind of think that the first thing I thought of was not that a partnership would be ending, but any sort of dutiful slave type behaviors you're purporting, any sometimes I think Pisces can be overly cooperative in a relationship, overly compromising to the lack of themselves. So I feel like this is what's going to happen within for Pisces. There's going to be an illumination. There's going to be an epiphany of some kind about how you operate in relationships. And if indeed you're operating where you're giving more than you're receiving, or maybe you're receiving more than you're giving, or what you're giving isn't authentic to you. Again, Pisces naturally rules the 12th house. This is a house of privacy. It's a house of, in some ways, isolation. It's a house of troubles. It can be troubles. And the reason I say that is because it feels very much on the inside, like there's a little bit of a storm brewing inside of Pisces. And while Pisces would normally want to swim away from it, in this particular moon feels like it gives me an opportunity to truly put it in its proper place. So I don't need to swim away from it, and I don't need to be stuck to it, but rather I need to find a cooperative harmonious, fair conclusion to this dynamic. Because the seventh house naturally rules partnerships. It's ruled by Libra. It represents harmony, balance, cooperation, diplomacy. So I really think for my Pisces, when it comes to this moon, you will be assessing and looking at how you show up in partnerships, if those partnerships are aligned and balanced, or if there's more giving than receiving, more receiving than giving. Hope I said that backwards. And then bringing that into balance. And you may find, Pisces, that as you do this reflection, you may find that you're more focused in on yourself than you are focused in on outside, meaning either your partner or the lack of a partner. And I think this will serve you best, because as you allow this full moon to illuminate your perception of seventh house activities, of partnerships, you'll be able to discern whether or not you're truly aligned to what you want to experience in partnerships, or you're trying to stave off a fear that you don't want to experience again. Because the trying not to experience something negative in many ways puts a focus on the negativity versus on the positive or what's possible. All right, that's it for this full moon. This is the first time I've done it sign by sign, so thanks everybody for taking the time to listen. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification button. And if you'd like to book a reading with me, you can get a hold of me through my contact information in the description below. My name is Teri Hunter, and I'm here to support you on your spiritual journey and your evolution to your highest vibration of happiness and joy and fulfillment, because as you feel that, you invite others to join you in that party. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon enough with my March heavenly horoscopes by sun sign. These were by rising sign, guys. So thanks so much. Speak to you soon. Peace out.